There are a lot of different reasons that I watch anime. I love the animation, character building, the story, and the world that anime can create with an infinite amount of different possibilities. And with animation, there's no real limitation on what you can make, for better or for worse. But there is one very specific thing about anime that I absolutely adore that other media are unable to portray as well as anime can. That being the different power systems that anime has. Any anime that has any sort of action in it pretty much has a sort of power system, whether it's just sword fighting with cool animation or godlike abilities that just make you win almost any fight that you could be a part of. Each power system is unique in its own way, and some are actually really threshed out and explained in depth about what they can do and how it works. But there are a lot of power systems that are confusing to say the least. But that's just how it is. Some power systems are going to be more interesting and just right out better than others. Which leads me to making this video about the top 12 power systems in all of anime. Here I'll be doing exactly as the title entails. I have 12 different anime power systems that are some of my favorites, and I'll be ranking them from worst overall to best overall. Now remember here, my opinion is not subjective, but absolute truth. My word will go down in the history books of anime as the law across the land, setting in stone these power systems as the best 12 in all of anime. Meaning that all other anime power systems that aren't included in this list are absolutely horrible and don't even deserve a moment of recognition. And the fans of those anime and power systems should all be ashamed of themselves and not go into the comments below to let me know about their arguments, and we can have a nice discussion. Now with that reminder out of the way, let's go ahead and get started in ranking the top 12 best power systems in anime. But before we get into that, I would like to play a little game. Something that I just straight up shamelessly stole from the New World Review, an amazing anime content creator that you need to go check out before continuing this video. The link to his channel is in the description right now. Now, I need some help. It's 4 AM and I'm sitting here staring at my list of 12, trying to decide which should go into which places, and I am on the verge of passing out right here on my keyboard. To be able to stay awake and get this video out on time, and make sure that my promise to Demon Lord Belzenlok isn't broken, I need a little bit of energy to boost me up and get me back into creating my list. It is up to you to decide what my source of energy should be so I can get back on track. If you choose right, great job, I can get this video out and my mortal soul will be spared. But if you choose wrong, I will pass out right here on my keyboard and miss the deadline that I set upon myself, breaking my true promise to Demon Lord Belzenlok, and will have my soul stolen from my mortal body. And you will also be forced to like and subscribe for more content like this in your feed. Choose now and I'll read the answer in 3, 2, 1. And it was this strange needle. Again, if you chose wrong, wait, Belzenlok, please, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't my fault, no, God, please, no. And make sure you hit like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and now, back to the video. Let me lay out how I'll be ranking these systems. I take a few things into consideration, but the main ones are really how powerful they are, how creative they are, and how thought out they are. You can have a power system that just relies on one person being basically an unkillable god, but then have the power system not explained or unique in any way, and it will be one of the worst power systems to be. There is no point in a power system that isn't at all fun to watch, since in the end, all of this is supposed to be for entertainment. We want power systems that are fun to watch and actually have a story behind them, instead of just weird ones that make no sense at all. So with that classification, we can go ahead and start with some honorable mentions for the list. I really only have a few honorable mentions for the list. These didn't quite make the cut for a couple of different reasons. Either the classification of it being an anime is sort of a gray area, or the system itself was just slightly too confusing or thrown out to sneak a spot on this list. The first of these systems actually being bending in Avatar. I threw this in the honorable mentions because of it being a gray area when it comes to anime. Some say that the classification is that a Japanese animated show, which in a way does make sense. But then there are arguments with shows like Scissor 7 that I would consider anime, but is a Chinese animated show. But regardless, Avatar's power system is absolutely outstanding. Harnessing the 4 elements to throw around water, fire, earth, and air to hit and kill your opponents is a fascinating thing to see. The versatility of bending is also incredible with things like blood bending, metal bending, lightning bending, etc. The show centers its power system in front of the entire show, but somehow makes it still an engaging and amazing story to watch without overbearing the bending part. It also dives deep down into the spiritual part of bending and how their bending actually works. It makes the power system very well thought out, and even evolves the forms of bending as time goes by. We get to see the power evolve naturally and new techniques be invented. If the classification was just a little more clear, I would absolutely have put this around 3rd or 4th on the list. But for the sake of clear classification, it stays here in honorable mentions. This one will be a little short. I wanted to put this one here in honorable mentions because just the thought of Death Note being a power system is a little interesting. The whole show revolves around the use of the Death Note and trying not to get caught being Kira. But would the Death Note itself be considered a power for a power system? I mean, there are multiple notes in the show, so it's not just exclusive to Light, so anyone can access the power if they get the attention of a Shikigami. I'm not entirely sure about it, so it does stay here in the honorable mentions, but it's a good thought experiment. And now with those out of the way, we can go ahead and start the real list with number 12. When making this list at first, I really never considered AOT as having a power system. I mean, there are really only 9 people throughout the entire show that have the power, and on top of that, it really isn't even a true focus for the show. Rather than focusing on the power that they have, the show is much more involved with its story and its characters. And because of that, the power system itself does tend to fall a little short a lot of the time. Now that doesn't mean I'm saying that AOT has a bad power system. The 9 Titans and their different abilities and traits that they all have are very interesting and really fun to see, especially within the fight on Eren's back in the last episode. However, because the show takes more care of its story and characters, it puts the power system's importance on the back burner and makes an incredible story that has changed the way that anime creates their stories forever. It's an amazing example of that the power system isn't everything, and other things need more focus as well. But since this is a list just focusing on the power systems in anime, it falls a little flat and makes it come under number 12 on this list. I really like Black Clover. It's a very popular shonen, but there is honestly quite a lot of hate for it. And a lot of that hate is pretty justified. The story's a little flat, it follows that shonen trope quite religiously, and the characters are a little one note. But the one thing that the show really has going for it is the power system. It is a very basic magic-based power system. You have your grimoire, you get to cast a bunch of powerful magic depending on how much magic you have. The part that really clicks with me though is the vast amount of different magic there is in the series. There's the basics like fire magic, wind magic, blah blah blah, but then there are a lot of interesting ones like copy magic, copper magic, glass magic, time magic, and just a lot of extremely interesting magics that interact with each other flawlessly. It makes the show interesting to watch on a power system level and makes you want to see more and more interesting magic, and it also makes you want to take a BuzzFeed quiz on which Black Clover magic you are. It's a solid system, but the depths of the system are put on the back burner for most of the anime, which causes it to fall back to 11th on its list. If you haven't been able to tell already, Demon Slayer is one of my favorite anime. But like Black Clover, it does have a lot of hate. And again, probably for justified reasons. Its characters are bland, the story is basic, it runs the shonen tropes, blah blah blah. You've heard me say these things already, so let's focus on the power system. Demon Slayer's power system is just breathing. Breaths that have different effects. That's about it. I mean, there are some other interesting parts of it. Again, the different forms of breathing get different elements and effects, but it overall just is a pretty basic power system. What makes it up to 10th, however, is the pure imagery that this power system in play is absolutely beautiful to watch. Which it very much may be the case of animation carried here, which I made a video about that you should totally go watch. but I absolutely love it. Though, with all honesty, I think Demon Slayer should probably be 11th on the list. Small rework. Demon Slayer is now 11th and Black Clover is 10th. I don't want to re-edit this, and we'll just call it here. Now to number 9. This is a power system that I actually know the least about, since the furthest I've watched Naruto was the Pain arc and nothing after that. But I mean, how much more could there possibly be? I mean, I am the #1 honest voice in anime and media facts, and everything I say is absolute truth, so Naruto deserves to only be in 9th. Alright, listen. Naruto wasn't really for me, but I can and do really appreciate the power system that they have in place. It might be the most iconic power system in all of anime. I mean, who wasn't throwing out ninjutsu hand signs when they were young and trying to harness a Rasengan thinking it might actually work? Naruto's power system has infinite possibilities that allows the creator to literally just make a ninjutsu of whatever they'd like. The show is centered around the power system, and it really never seems to get boring or using jutsu too much to the point where things become useless. It's a very good power system that I do know to appreciate, but the issue is that's all it really is. I mean, there's some diversity, but there are not much other than ninjutsu and genjutsu that just makes it ever so slightly bland. But overall, this is the power system that I know the least about on this list. So, if I knew more, then maybe it would be higher, but right now it stays in 9th place. Chainsaw Man's power system is just super goddamn cool. Making contracts with all these different devils, some being devils themselves, each being more powerful as they are feared. The world that Chainsaw Man built around its power system works very well and makes a very interesting society and story that we get to see play out. And it really is quite a powerful power system as well, especially leaning towards the gun devil killing millions in just a second. The system is well explained, with a lot of still being a mystery as well, alluding to us seeing more of its mystery in the future. And overall, it's just a very fun and intriguing power system that I don't really have much more to say about, but still lands itself in 8th place. This was the one you probably weren't expecting. Fire Force seems like an anime that is quickly being forgotten about. It had a decently large following a little while ago while the seasons were being released, but since there has been such a large gap between the last season and the new season about to come out, I've heard very little about it since. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Fire Force has a power system that I absolutely adore, using fire to take out a fire. The system has its own classification inside of the world, being the 1st through 4th generation pyrotechnics. The first being the Infernals, the second being able to manipulate flames but not create them, the third being able to manipulate and create the flames themselves, and the fourth being the ones with the Dola Burst that can just omega power you into something being one of the most powerful pyrotechnics in this series. It shows in depth the different abilities that they can use, and there are just so many different possibilities that you can utilize in this power system, it just sort of seems endless. But there is a problem with it being limited to only one element. While fire has many different properties that they can use to make differences, it all relates to fire, and that's all they can really do. It's certainly an interesting power system with a lot of versatility with the fire, but it can slowly become a little bland with fire being the only real thing, landing it in 6th place. Brotherhood's power system is one of the first ones that really got me interested in the complexity of power systems in anime. It's almost perfect in every way when it comes to the show and how it's presented and how they handle each person using and abusing alchemy. In a way, the power itself is like bending, using manipulating material around you to shape it in a useful way, snapping your fingers to ignite someone in fire, eating people, all pretty much bending in a sort of way. The anime goes deep into depth about this power system and how it works and its limitations, but it doesn't overbear you with this information and keeps you informed in how things should work and why they can't do this other thing. It shows the good sides of being able to use the power system and the very bad things you're able to do with it. My only real issue is that eventually it does get a little bland. While Edward's abilities are extremely versatile, everyone else's abilities sort of flat out and be just one thing, which causes some slowdown in the story, but it does make up for that with an absolutely amazing story for the rest of it and some of the best characters in all of anime. But because of that power system's downside, it stays here in 5th place. Bleach has a special place in my heart. It's one of the first anime that I watched and I loved watching it, so this might be a little bit of a biased pick for this spot. Bleach's Spiritual Pressure, Soul Reaper, Quincy, etc. power system is really interesting. I absolutely love that most of the fighting is done with swords and Zanpakutos. Each Soul Reaper has an incredible ability that relates to their Zanpakuto. Each of these abilities are vastly different from one another and actually relate to the characters extremely well. The fights with this power system are interesting to watch, and the show with fights never seem to get boring, except for that arc that we don't really talk about. This power system also has another form of infinite possibilities, and we get to see the incredible transformations with the power of Bankais. The entire show has a really well threshed out power system, and it leads through the show near flawlessly to make everything run pretty smoothly. My only real issue with the power system is that those who aren't Soul Reapers at the beginning of the show tend to be put in the back line and are sort of forgotten about. There are a lot of things that can be shown with the different powers in this system, and they do eventually get there and show those powers. But man, at the beginning it's just Soul Reaper Festival, which I certainly don't mind because I love Soul Reapers, but it's always nice to see more versatility. And because of that, it lands itself in 4th place. This one might be a little bit of a controversy, but I have to be honest. Though the controversy will probably just be One Piece fans yelling at me for not watching the hockey part yet, but I mean, I'm working on it. One Piece's power system is very good. Devil Fruits allow the creator to literally create any power he wants to slap it on a villain or an ally and make interesting and dynamic fights. And even those who don't have Devil Fruits are still extremely powerful contenders during fights like Zoro and Sanji, though Sanji does get that little bit of a boost being the super dude. The fights are interesting with the system, and even they do have fights that are extremely advantageous to certain fighters like Luffy was to Enel. It's the center of the entire show, paired with some amazing characters. It elevates the power system to another level of greatness. But the reason why it's not number 1 is for a few things. For one, there is a little bit of a weird thing for me that these Devil Fruits are supposed to be extraordinarily rare or legendary items, but nearly everybody in the show you see has one, including absolutely random small navy people. It diminishes the power system a bit and causes it to be not as legendary to have these abilities. As well as some of the abilities can be a little on the basic side, and some of the fights are drawn out needlessly with the power system in play. But regardless, the system overall works extremely well and lands One Piece in 3rd place. Second place goes to a pretty special anime in my heart, being JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I want to say, honestly, more specifically parts 3 and up for the stands. While I do like Hammond, and it continues to be a part of the JoJo franchise with Hermit Purple after part 2, the stands are just infinitely more interesting and dynamic power system that Hammond is. Stands, again, are infinitely versatile. It's another part of that the creator can just make any ability he wants and slap it on a villain and create a god that the main characters have to defeat. All of the stands' abilities are mostly extremely complex and very in-depth with what they can do. So much so that a lot of them just have abilities that the fan base just don't fully understand or do know, but it's just absolutely overpowered and basically unbeatable. The downside to me is that this power system has made JoJo's into a sort of monotonous sort of anime, episodic-wise. Every episode, the gang run into an enemy stand user, they fight, they win, and then they move on with the overarching story just a little bit. Next episode, the same thing happens, and etc. But I can look past these things for as long as I can see these amazing, complicated fights that afterward make me stare into a dark corner in my room and start crying. Which does land stands in 2nd place. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The best power system in anime is Hunter x Hunter. You knew that already. I mean, it's not really much of an argument. Well, thanks for watching. But in all seriousness, Hunter x Hunter has an absolutely amazing power system. I think Nen has to be one of the most in-depth dives into and explained power systems in all of anime. I mean, there was an entire arc of the anime that dove into exactly how Nen worked and the main characters going into learning Nen and absolutely excelling at it. It has infinite possibilities with infinite power potential. There are different categories of Nen with secondary categories that you can excel at. The fights and powers themselves are almost extremely interesting, and the creativity never seems to end. I could go into depth and explain how Nen works, but that would take hours and hours of research trying to just get my thoughts together. Or I could just link this video from the New World Review about how Nen works and have him do all of that work already. It goes very in depth and is an extremely well done video that you do need to go check out. My only real qualm about Nen is that I can't see more of it. Hunter x Hunter is never gonna actually get a consistent end. It will forever be in the loop of hiatus and the series will die out very soon, actually. But here's to hoping that isn't the case and we can see more amazing abilities very soon. And that's about it. The absolute definite list of the 12 best power systems in anime. I didn't realize how long this video was going to be, but honestly, I'm not that surprised when I'm actually talking about 12 different power systems. But regardless, I do want to hear your thoughts in the comments below about this list. I've obviously seen every single anime that has been released in the history of the world, so there shouldn't be a power system that I don't know about. But, you know, just in case, put your favorite power systems in the comments below and which ones you think I should have put on my list. Also, while you're down there, hit that like and subscribe button for me. It helps me out and lets me know what kind of content that you all like to see. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.